All right, hopefully it won't be long now. We'll be in the woods making maple syrup. Hey guys, welcome back to B&B Farms, where our goal is to try and live with our land and not just on it. Today we're in the maple woods. I thought we would do just a kind of a brief overlay of the entire process, or how we collect sap anyway, from the tree to the sugar house, you know, how we convey it, how we get it where we need it. We've done videos like this in the past, but you know, we've got some new viewers. You know, we'll touch on some updates we made this year, maybe learn a thing or two. All right, so it begins with, the tree. Drill a hole in the tree, take this spile, most people call that a tap, by the way, but it's actually called a spile. Drive it in the hole in the tree. This tubing that connects to the spile will collect that sap that leaks, run it down into the lateral line, which will take it down to the pump station. Let's take a look at that. All right, I'm going to tuck this right back up in here. This is our spile on our drop line. That's what that's called. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. There we go. So this is our drop, conveys the sap from the tree to the lateral line. We've got a T in this line right here. So sap will come down this line from the tree into the lateral line and then run down to the pump station. So let's head that way. If we can get down there without getting killed, this snow is really wet. You might be able to hear that serious crunch it's got, the sure sign of some wet, slippery snow. We'll see if we can get down there in one piece. All right, we made it. Dignity and my anatomy still in one piece. All right, you can see we've got several lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 lateral lines carrying sap down out of the woods, and they all converge into this manifold right here. Now, some of you guys that do maple syrup, you're going to say, why aren't you running a main line? Yeah, and you're right. That is the traditional way to do it, is you run one large main line, or actually multiple main lines if you're a large producer, and you run your laterals into the main line. The main line carries sap down to the pump shed. We're just experimenting, doing things a little different. So all we have are individual laterals. Each lateral will have, anywhere from 5 to 20 trees on it. Got about 175 taps total, and they all come right here into this pump shed. So there it is. Once again, all of the laterals running down, and you can see right here's a main line. Yeah, we used to run a main line. I could never get it to work right. No fault of the procedure. I just could not get enough fall on it to get it to work for us, which is why we went back to individual laterals. Let's take a look in the pump shed. If we can get this frozen door open. There we go. All right, inside the pump shed, right here, covered up, is the line that comes in from that manifold we just finished looking at. It comes in through the wall of the pump shed. When everything gets hooked up, this filter that you see right here will go in between it and bring sap into the releaser. We'll look at that next. Here's our homemade vacuum releaser. We've got some videos on that from last year. You've probably already seen that if you've been around our channel very long. It worked really well for us. We didn't know, we didn't know if we'd be able to get it to work, but we can carry anywhere from 25 to 27 inches of vacuum on this, which I think is pretty good for a homemade unit. So yeah, it works out real well. From the releaser, when it dumps, the sap will come out of the bottom of the releaser into this catch tote right here, where this pump will pump it out that line up to the sugar house. This pump works off of a float system down here. It's got a lower float and an upper float, and that's what makes the pump kick on and off to empty this tank. It's got an overflow right here that just runs out, underneath the shed. The way our system is set up is it's all temperature controlled. We've got a controller in there. I'll take you back in there and show you that. Had to come out where it's a little lighter. It's pretty dark in that pump shed. So the controller senses external temperature, outdoor temperature, and temperature in the pump shed. And when it falls below a preset amount, it will shut the pumps down and, you know, allow the remaining sap to drain by gravity into the pump shed. And that's what that overflow is for, because if they all drain and the line that runs up the hill to the sugar house drains back also, so it won't freeze, that's going to overflow that catch basin. So the extra sap will drain out and not make a big mess. All right, let's get back inside. Our vacuum source, this is kind of crazy, is a Thomas 2650 combination vacuum and compressor, a wobble piston design pump. It's a dry pump. It is not intended for this at all, but it works. Actually works really well. Right there's something I need to address. I've got to, you know, make a better connection here. I added this yellow wire you see there last year so that we could use this pump instead of pumping sap back to the sugar house. At the end of the season, we put a cleaning solution in here and we pump it right back up those lines we just talked about. It makes it real simple. We can pump every bit of it from here all back up through the lines and fill them full of sanitizer. All right, let's take a look at the controller that controls all this. It's right here. There's your temperature units I was talking about. It's not powered up right now. You know, like I said, we're still waiting on some warmer weather. But we can run it in manual operation or automatic, and it will control all aspects of this collection system for us. So let's recap real briefly. Sap comes out of the tree into the drop line. Drop line connects to the lateral line. Lateral lines run down to the pump shed. That's where we're at right now looking at it. The pump shed takes that sap, it goes into the releaser, puts a vacuum on all those lines, draws that sap down here. And then when the releaser is full, it dumps about 6.5 gallons at a time into that collection pan, which triggers the float system, which triggers that pump to pump the sap out of the pump shed back up to the sugar house. You got all that? All right, we'll head to the sugar house next. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the line that brings sap from the pump shed up to the sugar house. It's just 1-inch plastic line. You can see or hopefully you can see the sugar house. You can see the pump shed right down there. That's where we just were that collect the sap coming from the woods, and it travels up that blue line when that pump comes on and brings it right up here. We transition to PVC right here, and it runs into the wall of the sugar house. Let's go inside and show you what it looks like on the other side of that wall. All right, into the sugar house we go. Whew, man, them steps are slick. Kick some snow off. All right, you can see our Smoky Lake evaporator, our Corsair evaporator. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's focus on our journey of the sap from the tree to the sugar house. This room is our sap collection room and our reverse osmosis room. You can see it sitting right there. Start at the beginning. Here is the line that we were just looking at outside, the line that comes from the pump shed. When it pumps sap up into the sugar house, it comes right through this wall. You can see there's an electromechanical ball valve right here on this tank, and on the second tank, another electromechanical ball valve. Now, of these two tanks, this one is the primary tank. This is where the sap will come first. It'll come down this PVC pipe. This valve will be shut, so it can't get into this tank. It'll run down. This valve is normally open. It will dump into this tank. If this tank gets full, this float will come up. You guys hear that? These two valves are changing states. Let it go. So when that happens, we switch to the other tank. In other words, this valve will shut. Sap will no longer be able to run into this tank when that float raises, signaling it's full, but instead it will begin to fill this tank. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you just cook the tanks together and fill them both simultaneously? And yep, sure could have done that. It would have worked just fine. The problem is, if you have a small sap run, you still got to clean both tanks. Cleaning these tanks isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. So we're going to fill one tank at a time. That way, if we don't get, over 275 gallons, we only have to clean one tank, not two. All right, so we've got our tanks full of sap. Let's go down here a minute. Down at the bottom of these tanks, you can see each one has a valve, and there's a manifold and a pipe that runs outside the building. And on this end, we've got our line that runs to the reverse osmosis system. So sap will come into the tank, fill it, it'll run into this pipe. This hose will carry it, and I'm not going to show you all of this. We might do another video on this. This is a 60 gallon per hour reverse osmosis unit from the guys at the RO Bucket. This is our first year using this, so we're really excited to use it, see how it does for us, and if it really picks up our ability to process sap a little faster. We had a homemade reverse osmosis for a number. Boy, I can't talk today. We had a homemade reverse osmosis for a number of years, one that I put together, worked great for us, but we just simply outgrew it. It was time for something a little bigger, a little quicker. So we're hoping that this will do the trick. We'll let you know. Here's the line that comes from that manifold at the bottom of the tanks, runs through a flow meter. We'll be able to judge how many gallons we're running through it, and then through the reverse osmosis. From there, you can see we have two lines, a red and a blue. The blue line is concentrated sap, and the red line is pure water. We're going to bring all that over here. Again, staying true to our color. Here is our blue line. This is where our concentrated sap's going to come out. We're going to open this valve, start filling our concentrate barrels, which are, in this case, just 3 food-grade plastic barrels. When this one gets full, the level will rise till it gets, to this tube right here, this PVC pipe, where it will run into the next one. Same thing over here. When this one gets full, the level will rise, and it will hit this PVC pipe, which will run into the third one. So that's keeping with my philosophy we talked about earlier. I'm not going to fill all 3 tanks simultaneously. I'm going to fill one at a time. That way, if it's a short run, I only have to clean, you got it, one at a time. Lots of different ways to do that. That's just the way we decided to do it. All right, so to get the concentrated sap out of the tanks, we've got a wand right here, hooked to a hose. That hose runs to a pump mounted on the wall. Let's go back outside. Right here's the control for that pump. We can flip it on out here. Hear the pump come on. It's going to pump that sap right up into that PVC pipe, you see. Runs right along there. Got a slope to it. It will always drain completely, because if you're cooking, making maple syrup 2 days in a row and the temperature gets really low, that pipe will freeze solid, and that really slows down, the progress. So we've got it all sloped so that it'll all drain, and that way it won't freeze, but it brings the concentrated sap into this food safe bucket right here. It comes through this tube, right down into the float box on the Smoky Lake Evaporator. I don't think we'll talk too much about how the evaporator works. We've done that in other videos. If you guys want to see that, drop us a line in the comments, and we'll, go into greater detail about how the evaporator itself works. I will say it works fantastic. We can get an easy 15 gallon per hour out of a 2 foot by 4 foot divided flat pan, and that's cooking right along. So yeah, very pleased with the Smoky Lake Corsair. Here's our homemade automatic draw-off system we made. I think we've had a video on that a few years ago. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. You can check it out. Motorized ball valve, temperature probe that you don't see right now inside this pan. What happens is the sap comes into the pan, gets hot, gets thick, becomes maple syrup. Once it reaches the temperature of maple syrup, which is about 7.1 degrees above the boiling point of water on that particular day, this automatic draw-off senses that, opens this ball valve automatically, and begins to drain off finished maple syrup. When the temperature falls, indicating that it's no longer maple syrup, the control unit will close the ball valve, and it's all automatic. Works very well. Let's get back into the pump room. We've already talked about the blue line carrying the concentrated sap. We know where that goes. This red line is carrying the byproduct of the reverse osmosis process, which is absolutely pure water. How about that? A byproduct you can live with, right? So this pure water runs out the red line and it just goes through the wall. I'll take you back out here and show you that. Right here it is. Here's the red line bringing pure water out. It's got a line that we can run it outside and dump it, outside the building. But what we probably will do most of the time is run it through this line into this tank. This is our clean water collection tank. It's a 210-gallon tank. We use that for clean water to just to wash stuff down here in the sugar house. And also, you see this black line right here? We can draw clean, pure water out of that back into the RO room. See that black line coming along? That comes right from that clean water tank. And it will run into the reverse osmosis. That's how we clean it. When it comes time that it needs flushed, we just switch these valves around, and instead of drawing in pure maple sap, we'll draw in pure water, run through the system, get it all flushed out. Pretty slick. And it's not my idea. This is how it's done everywhere. Got a ball valve at the bottom of the pure water tank. We can open it, set a 5-gallon bucket under it, and take up buckets of 5-gallon, clean 5-gallon water that we can use to wash stuff in here and get all the cleanup done. When this tank gets too full, again, it's 210 gallons, water level rises, hits this tube, runs out, outside the building. These lines are used when we are flushing the reverse osmosis system. So it all depends on where you direct, everything to go. You want to collect the concentrate, or are you flushing, or are you washing the RO and you want that to go outside? So you really got to be on your game with the ball valves. You got to be paying attention, get them all set the right way, or you're going to be putting product somewhere you don't want it. That's very discouraging. I've been there. All right, let's walk next door to this room. This is what we used to call our finish room, our clean room. We used to finish maple syrup. We had a flat pan, and it did not make, maple syrup. We pulled it off of that and finished it over propane, so we had, better control over it. We don't do that anymore, so this just kind of sits here, not getting used too much. Over here we have our fitting assortment. We've got 5/16 and 3/16 fittings because we are currently running both as we transition over to all 5/16. Spiles, tubing tools, cutters, repair parts, everything you need to get out in the woods, and if you have a breakdown or something goes wrong, you can make a repair. It's a really nice room. It's small, but it's insulated. It heats up real well. When we used to finish maple syrup over this propane burner here, we had let me get this. We had a blower vent set up. A lot of steam would come off of that. It'd come up, carry it right out of the room. But like I said, we don't use that anymore. This tank is what sits under that automatic draw-off valve that I was telling you about a while ago. This is what we collect the finished maple syrup in when it comes off the evaporator. I'm not going to talk too much more about the Smoky Lake Corsair. I told you how happy we were with it. We got a lot of videos on it. If you have any questions about it or you want to see it in operation, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of videos coming up that's going to show us boiling on it. But if there's something specific you want to know, drop us a line in the comments and we'll try and get that answered for you. So I think that just about, whoa, man, that floor is slick. Just about wraps it up. There's a lot of different ways to make maple syrup, and we started out just like about every sugar maker, I would imagine, how they start out, hanging buckets on trees. We would collect the sap in like a big tank with our tractor or in the back of our Kawasaki mule, bring it back to this sugar house. A lot of handling of sap, a lot of manual labor. Made great maple syrup, don't get me wrong, it works just fine. But through the years, we've just gradually, added enhancements and improvements to make our life a little easier. And what we found was a lot of the stuff, there were like two camps. There were the backyarders hanging buckets on trees, and there were the guys that had, 8, 10,000, even more taps. There's not a lot of equipment for the little guy in between. So we just made our own, developed our own processes, made our own equipment, and that's what you're looking at in there. Is all stuff that we have put together just to make our life a little easier. Well, I hope you liked this installment. It wasn't very, thorough or in-depth. If you have any questions, like I said, drop us a line in the comments. We'll take care of that for you. We're going to have a lot more, maple syrup videos coming up if Mother Nature gives us some good maple syrup weather. That's out of our hands. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap this video up. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Guys, I know everybody's asking you to do that, but it really makes a difference. YouTube's watching all that stuff. It helps the channel greatly. We really appreciate your help. Also, remember to be nice to one another. Yep, the world's still a crazy place. I say that every time. Be nice to one another. It doesn't cost anything. Just be nice. What else? Oh yeah, get outside. I think that's probably some of the best medicine you can get, guys. Get outside, enjoy what's around you. Just spend a little time outdoors and just breathe it in. You'll be a better person for it. Guys, we'll see you on the next video. Take care.